Hello everyone and welcome back to the EL111 coursebook. In this video we're going to be going over the first part of Unit 3. We're going to be talking about movement and different types of movement. So let's take a look. Here we have 3A. I want you to take a quick look at the pictures and tell me what you see. You can pause the video as well, that's completely fine. What I personally see is a large number of the same animal, which we'll know the name of in a bit here. And this seems to be the same thing as well, but with butterflies, also known as insects. So what we're going to be doing now is I want you to take 30 seconds for each text here and just go over them quickly so that you get a general idea of what the text is talking about. Okay, so pause the video, and then when you come back, you know the drill. I'll continue the video as if you've already done that. Here you go. This is the first one, and here's the second one. Okay? All right, so now that you've read these and you have a general idea, we know these are called wild beasts, and these are obviously butterflies, and the text generally talks about them moving from one place to another. Now, what we're going to be doing is I'll give you some more time, and I want you to read through both of these with a little more detail in mind so that we can actually understand what the text is trying to say and what each of these species goes through when they move from one place to another. Okay? So again, here's the first one, and here's the second one. All right, now I'll continue as if we've all read the text and we have a general idea of what is going on. Let's go back to exercise 1. Forget the photos. Let's discuss what similarities the two species may have. Now, notice these are two very different species, but they have quite a bit of similarities based on the text. We could we could say that some of these similarities include them migrating to combat the change in climate. Because if you remember, this happens because of climate change, and the wild beast population, they go around to look for fresh grass. So that's climate change. And in the case of butterflies, or the monarch butterfly, they simply cannot survive the cold winters, especially in the north. So they have to make their way somewhere else where it's warmer. Okay? We could also say some more similarities include that they migrate in pairs. You don't see just one of them migrating 1,000 miles or 2,500 miles. So they migrate in large groups or pairs. Okay? We could also say one more similarity would be something like they look out for dangerous predators as they're migrating. I mean, if an animal is going 1,000 miles, they're bound to meet another animal or a predator that wants to kill them, eat them as food, etc. You know, typical ecosystem stuff. So we'll say that both of them try to avoid predators, and there's dangers involved in this migration process. All right, so that was some of the similarities the two species have together. Now let's go down here. We have exercise 2. Read one text and answer the questions for your species. So I want you to pick one of these, and it's totally up to you. Pick whatever one you like more and answer these questions. One note before we start, you could use the word animals to identify insects here. So, or not insects, rather the monarch butterflies. I wouldn't use it when talking or referring to an insect, but for the case of this, just for this video, we'll assume animals mean both wild beast and butterflies, if that's the text you chose. Okay? So, I hope you're back. I hope you're able to get some of these answers. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to use a notepad here, and we're going to be going over these questions. I'll do, let's see if we have, okay, so since we have only one text and we're not doing this in pairs, I'm actually going to do the exercise for both texts. And what I would like you to do is compare your answer based on the text that you chose. Okay? So for question 1, so I'm going to do 1 and then 2 as well. So 1 is for the first text, 2 is for the second text, and then obviously that'll be question 1 and then question 2, etc. So how many animals migrate? Let's take a look together. We'll say it is taken by about, there you go, 1.7. Oh, sorry about that. We'll say it is taken by about 1.7 million wild beasts. And for, actually, let me do something here. It makes this a little bit better. That way you guys can see everything. It is taken by about 1.7 million wild beasts. And for the butterflies, we'll say, oh wow, that's a lot, over 50 million monarch butterflies. However, if you guys take a look here, where was it? That number is decreasing. So over that number is significantly less. So we'll say something like, but that number is really less. We could also say than a few years ago. All right. Let's go to question number 2. How far do they travel? Let's take a look at text 1. They travel a return journey of about 1,000 miles. So they travel a return journey of about 1,000 miles. And then 2, here you go. Their journey of over 2,500 miles. So the monarch butterflies go about over 2,500 miles. All right, great. Let's go to question number 3. When does the journey begin? Okay, for the wild beasts, it begins between, actually, let me take a look so that I make sure I get this right. It is between December and April. So between December and April. Okay. And for the butterflies, it is between March, July. Okay, so between March and July. Great. Let's go to the next question. Where do they go? For the wild beasts, we'll say they go through the Serengeti Plains of Tanzania. And then where did they head? They head north, or no, they head west, then north towards Kenya, and then south back to the Serengeti, where they began their journey. So if we want to write this, we'll say something like, the wild beasts go through the Serengeti Plains in Tanzania. They head west, sorry, not south. They head west, then north towards Kenya, and then south back to the Serengeti. Okay, that's the first part. For the second part, let's take a look at the butterflies. We'll say from, okay, so they arrive home in the northern USA. No, that's who comes back. Okay, there you go. So it's from the northern USA to the southern USA to Mexico and then back to the northern USA. I swear to God, I just saw it. I lost it. There you go. There it is. So the return of over to Mexico via the southern USA takes approximately 2 months. So they go to Mexico through the southern USA from the north. So how do we put this in words? We could say something like from the northern USA to the southern USA to Mexico. And then back, of course, and back to the northern USA again. All right. I hope you guys can't hear that. There's a bird outside my window, so I hope that's not too distracting. Why do the animals migrate? That's a great question. Why do they migrate? We can say something like, oh, right here, because they're searching for fresh grass because of climate change. So in the case of wild beasts, we could say in search of fresh grass. And then for number 2, what about the butterflies? They simply cannot survive the cold. So they cannot survive the cold right here. The butterflies cannot survive the cold winters. Okay. What dangers do the animals face? In the case of the wild beasts, let's take a look. These predators. Here you go. Look out for predators on the way, in particular crocodiles and lions. So we'll say, but remember the question said dangers, so it's not just predators. So what are some other dangers besides crocodiles and lions? Well, starvation, drowning, okay, and predators as well. So we'll say something like risks of starvation and drowning, as well as predators like crocodiles and lions. Okay. Now let's go to the butterflies. For the butterflies, several dangers. Birds and wasps are predators. Climate change. So we could say something like, well, I only see natural predators, so we'll say something like natural predators like birds and wasps. Okay, so these were the questions. Okay, you can screenshot this if you like. I've done it for both texts. Compare your answers to the one that you chose, and if yours is a little off, make sure you correct that. Okay? All right. Now, let's go back to our book. Let's go to exercise 4. Actually, before we do that, let's take a look at the focus here. We have writing. Using a wider range of vocabulary. To make your writing more interesting, you need a wider range of vocabulary. What does this mean? This means that you don't use the same 2 words to explain something. There's multiple words that could have the same meaning as the meaning that you're trying to convey, and mixing and matching these in your writing or even in your speaking is a good way to make the way you write or speak much more interesting. Okay? For example, let's take a look here at some of the words in the text. Actually, these are already in the exercise. So what I'm going to do is I'll show you what they mean in a second. Let me just open exercise 4. Here you go. So, for example, we have something that means start a journey. I think everyone knows what start a journey of. But what you might not know, and it's found in the text, is start a journey could be said with the two words set off. So when I say something like, I set off to France, means I started my journey to France. Okay? So again, two sentences that mean the same thing, or rather, words that mean the same thing, or mean the same thing, but they're different. So it makes my writing that much more interesting. Okay? Start a journey, set off. What about B? Arrive at. Arrive at could mean reach. Have you ever used Google Maps? Sometimes it'll say you've arrived at your destination. Everyone knows what that means, but the app could also say you've reached your destination. See? Same exact meaning, different vocabulary. C, travel from and back to the same point. Okay, this will be return journey, and I intentionally did not explain what this meant in the text so that I can explain it here. I think all of us have been on a return journey at least once. A return journey is when you go somewhere and then come back to the place that you were originally at. So in the case of these animals, they make a whole migration process like a circle, and then they come back to their original place. Say, for example, you're someone that lives in Saudi Arabia, you've been living your whole life, and you book a plane ticket to France, but that plane ticket is a return ticket. That means it pays for both you going to France and coming back to Saudi Arabia. Okay? So that is a return journey. In the direction of, that would be word towards. I'm moving in the direction of and towards, same meaning. E, through a place. Okay, this one's pretty interesting. Through a place is via. So basically what it means is, say there's a bridge. You could say I'm going through a place. I'm going through the bridge, or via the bridge. It means the same thing. You're using that particular space to go through or move towards. Okay? Or not towards. Use that platform, if you will, to get to your destination. F, move in the direction of, that would be the word head. Here it is. So, if someone says, where are you headed? Then that's what that means. What direction are you taking? Past time. Past time would be spend. Remember, spend here does not mean spending money, but rather spending free time. Okay? So, or passing time, rather. So that's what that means. A long distance away, far from. A long distance is something that is far away, far from. During a journey will be on the way. So during the journey, I drank a bottle of Coke. On the way, I drank a bottle of Coke. Same thing. Travel from one side of something to the other side. That would be cross. Think of an X. So traveling from one side to the other. Okay. K describes the time required to do something. That will be the word takes. If I say it takes me 30 minutes to record this video, that is me describing the time required to do something. In this case, it's recording this video. Okay? So, set off, reach, return journey, towards, via, head, spend, far from, on the way, cross, and takes. All right, great. Now, let's go to exercise 5. Let me reset this. Okay, actually, before we do that, let's go to exercise 6 first because we have an audio that we need to listen to before we do exercise 5. So here's what we're going to do. Listen to a program about Chenyun and answer the questions in 5. Okay, so here we have a few questions. What I want you to do, first of all, is I'll play the audio once so that you get a general idea of what the program is talking about and things like that. And then I'll play it again so that you can focus on the questions. So for now, just listen and be attentive.
Chunyun is a period of travel in China, lasting around 40 days. It is the largest human migration in the world, when the planes, trains and roads of China become completely full of people. It starts about 15 days before the Chinese New Year and continues for about 25 days after the celebrations. During these 40 days, nearly 3 billion people travel. The reason for this huge movement of people is simple. It's a tradition for Chinese people to spend New Year with their families. But many people live far from their parents, normally because they are working or studying in a big city. So during Chunyun, they all head to their family homes. Those with money drive or fly home, but many people can't afford that, so instead they use the very crowded trains and buses. Many of these people are students or migrant workers. Some people cross the country to be with their families, and remember, China is an enormous country. We met one of the travellers, Liling, at the main railway station in Beijing, and she told us about her travel plans.
Hello, my name is Liling, and I'm a student in Beijing. But today I'm going home to spend New Year with my family. I'm from a town near Chengdu, which is over 1,000 miles from Beijing.
How long is the journey?
It's going to take 36 hours. And I have already been travelling for a long time this morning because everywhere is so busy.
A 36-hour train journey.
Yes. I left home at 6:30 this morning.
What are you going to do on the train?
I'm going to sleep a lot because I'm very tired. I've been studying very hard lately.
And do you have a bed on the train?
No, I just have a seat. There are beds on the train, but they're expensive. My ticket only costs 500 yuan. That's about $70 for a return ticket.
So in 36 hours, you'll be back home with your family?
No, in Chengdu. I have to get a bus to my town. That's another 3 hours.
That is quite a bit of traveling. Okay, all right. Now that we have a good idea of what the program is about and you've heard it once, now I'm going to play it again, but this time I want you to take out your notes and answer these questions as the as the audio is playing. Listen for the very specific details, which are the answers for these questions. Okay, here we go.
Chunyun is a period of travel in China, lasting around 40 days. It is the largest human migration in the world, when the planes, trains and roads of China become completely full of people. It starts about 15 days before the Chinese New Year and continues for about 25 days after the celebrations. During these 40 days, nearly 3 billion people travel. The reason for this huge movement of people is simple. It's a tradition for Chinese people to spend New Year with their families. But many people live far from their parents, normally because they are working or studying in a big city. So during Chunyun, they all head to their family homes. Those with money drive or fly home, but many people can't afford that, so instead they use the very crowded trains and buses. Many of these people are students or migrant workers. Some people cross the country to be with their families, and remember, China is an enormous country. We met one of the travellers, Liling, at the main railway station in Beijing, and she told us about her travel plans.
Hello, my name is Liling, and I'm a student in Beijing. But today I'm going home to spend New Year with my family. I'm from a town near Chengdu, which is over 1,000 miles from Beijing.
How long is the journey?
It's going to take 36 hours. And I have already been travelling for a long time this morning because everywhere is so busy.
A 36-hour train journey.
Yes. I left home at 6:30 this morning.
What are you going to do on the train?
I'm going to sleep a lot because I'm very tired. I've been studying very hard lately.
And do you have a bed on the train?
No, I just have a seat. There are beds on the train, but they're expensive. My ticket only costs 500 yuan. That's about $70 for a return ticket.
So in 36 hours, you'll be back home with your family?
No, in Chengdu. I have to get a bus to my town. That's another 3 hours.
All right. So now that we're done with the audio, I hope you're able to get some answers for these questions here. Let's go over them one by one. So where do many Chinese people spend New Year? They spend it with their families. Okay, that is A. B. Why do many Chinese people live far from their parents? Well, we have two main options because they might be working or studying in a big city. How long does it take to travel from Beijing to Chengdu by train? She said around 36 hours, but it takes another 3 hours to reach her parents. But specifically from city to city, Beijing to Chengdu, that's around 36 hours. D. What time did Liling set off this morning? She set off at 6:30 a.m. All right. What is Liling going to do on the way home? Sleep a lot. And finally, how much does a return journey cost? She said 500 yuan, which is the equivalent to $70. So 500 yuan or $70. Okay? So these were the answers. I hope yours looked something similar to this. All right. Now we can go back to exercise 5. Let me reset this. Chunyan is the largest annual human migration in the world. We have a pretty good idea of this now. And choose the correct words from 4 to make questions about Chunyan. You may need to change the form. Okay. So here we have a few words. More than we need, I think. Yeah, definitely more than we need. And we're going to have to put them in the correct spaces. And maybe we have to change the form as well. So let's go over these one by one and see. Where do many Chinese people, this would be spend. So we'll say spend New Year. Why do many Chinese people live? This will be far from. So far from their parents. C. How long does it dash to travel from Beijing to Chengdu by train? You guys remember this one? That's correct. It'll be take. Get rid of the S. So how long does it take to travel from Beijing? D. What time did Liling dash this morning? You guys remember this word? Set off. Start her journey. Set off this morning. What is Liling going to do? Dash home. On the way, that is correct. On the way home. F. How much does a dash cost? You guys remember this? Return journey. That is correct. return journey. Okay? So these were the words that we used: spend, far from, take, set off, on the way, and return journey. All right, wonderful. Do we have anything else? No, we don't. Yeah, we just have one last exercise before we move on. Since we don't have groups, what I would like you to do is practice your speaking. You can talk to a friend or even do it yourself. I do that a lot. What you could do is talk about a specific journey that you make regularly, or a journey that you've made in the past, basically, and try to make it sound a little bit like what we've heard in this lesson so far. Okay, so perhaps you're someone that takes a very specific vacation yearly, or every couple months you visit a family member that lives far away, or you travel to a different country. It just has to be a journey, okay? Talk about it with yourself. Talk about what you do, why you do, how do you travel, what do you do during your travel. Talk about all of these things that we've talked about in the lesson, okay? So, on that note, that concludes the first part of Unit 3. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned something new, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.